And welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. Yo, and I am live in Vista, California. Lovely Vista, California. Coming to you from Comic-Con. And I come to you from nerdrotic.com. And I am with my co-host up in LA, Jon Reed. What is up, dude?
What up? Danny's back and you're gonna be sorry. Hey, anyway,
we'll never do that again. Yes, I'm still wearing my badge. I just rolled in from 4 days of madness that we will talk about on another podcast because you are here for Game of Thrones. It just ended. Another nice long episode that felt really, really short. Jon, overall thoughts?
Sorry, I forgot I had gum in my mouth. Overall thoughts, I felt that this episode was really kind of the realization of Game of Thrones, right? Like before it was the game for the throne, and now it's like there's a bunch of people sitting on thrones and kind of warring with one another. I liked that the beginning of the episode really played that out, right? Like we had Dany in her war room, and then we had Jon discussing their next moves with Sansa, and then we had Cersei gathering all the lords together. And the first half of the episode really felt like the realization of like the name of the show, right? So I thought that was really cool. I thought there were a couple of scenes that this specific episode could have done without, in my opinion. Like I feel like Grey Worm and Missandei, like it's like they're trying to get as much like nakedness into the show as possible because that's what people maybe thought was interesting about it in the first season or something, and so they kind of squeeze these things in there. But the less I see of their relationship, the better for me. And then just that scene with Sam and Jorah was just that was brutal. But I felt like the middle had a little bit of like I might fast forward through this if I weren't podcasting about it feel to it, whereas the beginning was really like political and the end was super action packed. And I also feel like the show maybe is getting a little bit meta with us. I mentioned that on the last episode, and we got Frey pies in this episode. We got Nymeria back, which I know is something that people speculated about. So like all the little speculation threads on Reddit, you're starting to see directly referenced in the show. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that seems to be, now that we're off book for the most part, that's, it's seems to be, wink and a nod to the Reddit boards a lot. And then the last kind of general thought I had was, I think saving Euron for this point in the show was really, really smart, because you kind of let Ramsay shine as like the crazy bad guy. And now you're kind of, like in a lot of shows that we love, like Buffy, for example, there's like a big bad every season. And we had Ramsay for a few seasons. And now I think we're going to have Euron for a season. And I like that for like TV purposes. I think it was smart to kind of hold off on Euron to let him really shine when Ramsay was out of the picture.
Absolutely. Could not love Euron more. Love him in the books. And in the books, we could get Euron and Ramsay meeting, which is exciting. The meta reference, it's getting a bit... we're way off book now. They don't have... I talked about this before. They don't have George R. R. Martin to go back on, and he is not talking to them, obviously. I think he's given them the ending and some points, but that's it. They're all on their own on this show, and it's showing a bit. The meta, the Reddits, on Free Folk, the formerly good Free Folk, it's not very good now. The spoilers on there are 100% right. Like this season breakdown, like somebody leaked pretty badly. Might be the same person working in the Trump White House, the same person leaking, because these are pretty accurate. And man, it's I read them, and usually there's one or two things that are right, but these are like spot on. Is it taken away from my enjoyment? No, not at all. It's the show is becoming predictable, and that is kind of a bummer. It's not the groundbreaking TV it once was. It's still really entertaining. It's still head and shoulders above most TV shows. But I'm not going to lie to you, man. I feel like I love this episode. I want to sound negative. This doesn't feel like Game of Thrones. And this happens to normal TV, but I always thought Game of Thrones wasn't normal TV.
So here's the thing, though. There have been mediocre episodes of Game of Thrones.
Oh, yes.
And I would say, can you name a really great second episode of a Game of Thrones season? Like, this isn't really where Game of Thrones typically hits its high marks. So to have like as much, it almost seems like they overcorrected with that, like with all of the stuff, like the sand snakes biting it, I think is a lot of fan service right here in the second. There's a lot of things that I think fans will be very happy with. It's almost like they're just doing it too quickly and kind of sloppily. Like, also and again, negative things up front. We'll try. I'm very positive on this episode as well. But one of the things that did kind of like, I don't know, I thought was kind of crazy is Dany's talking about summoning Jon Snow, and then the very next scene it cuts to Jon Snow receiving that letter that summons, right? And it's like Game of Thrones doesn't usually have that immediate reaction to an idea. And I think that that's what makes it such a great show is we would have somebody be like, oh, we should talk to Jon Snow. And then like half the season later, Jon would receive that raven, and it would be like, oh yeah, Dany was summoning Jon. Like, there's a long game in play here. And it feels like they're sacrificing a bit of the long game right now. That said, in the short term, they're giving us fun stuff, right? Like,
oh yeah. I think they should break their own rule and simply put 2 months later, or they need to do that. Okay. Cause Jon Snow's talking about going to White Harbor and sailing to Dragonstone. That's 3 weeks, 2 weeks. That's, I mean, in the books, that's pretty much, so it's basically, Westeros is the size, at least when the book started out, things have changed a bit, but Westeros is the size of South America. Okay, so you're sailing from I don't know, the Venezuela just on the down to Chile or around the down to Brazil, southern Brazil or something like that. Sorry, I don't know my South America that much. I'm sorry. But yeah, you're sailing the length of a continent on a ship. So that I'm assuming that takes at least 2 or 3 weeks. I forgot how long it takes.
How long would it take to get from Dragonstone to King's Land? Because like, where did Euron meet up with the rest of the Greyjoy fleet in this episode? Like, how long do you think it was between when Dany sent Illyria Sand and the Greyjoys to King's Landing? How long was in between that and the ransacking of those ships?
As far as I can remember, that can be done in a day. It's like Dragonstone's almost, you can see Westeros from Dragonstone. It's not that far. Yeah, it's not that far off. Maybe I don't think it's like Catalina to California, but I think, but I wanted to bring that up. I actually have that in my notes that maybe there's a traitor in the mist. We had the conversation in the beginning, which actually needed to happen. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, with Varys and Daenerys. And she's like, listen, dude, you've betrayed everybody you've met. And, he's come out as a man for the people, which is completely unlike the Varys in the book, which is cool. Because we still don't know what the Varys in the book is up to. We do the one thing they have in common is they both hate magic. Well, if they hate magic, why are they with Daenerys? So yeah, I think there still might be a traitor in the mist because Euron jumped on them pretty quick. He might have been waiting. He could have sussed it out, that there's it's hard to hide 1,000 ships. So maybe he, and obviously they have little birds too, and Qyburn has his network of spies. So yeah, who knows?
If there is a traitor, who do you think it is? Than?
Queen
of Thorns?
No, I think it might be the obvious choice. It might be Varys.
Varys.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. Or Lady Olenna, maybe she's just just pissed
over it. Yeah,
she had that little conversation with Daenerys about ignoring the men because they're the sheep and she's the dragon, which is a very good conversation, and Daenerys should be that. But let's also remember that Lady Olenna is not perfect. She allied herself with Joffrey, okay,
right,
and then killed Joffrey, and then didn't make her move on Cersei when she could have, and Cersei fucked her over. So, you know, she's not the great schemer either. She's pretty
Although
good, but she got
a lot
fucked
of
in the
that
end.
was Marjorie, though, right? Like Marjorie didn't do everything Lady Elaine that the Queen of Thorns wanted her to do, and I feel like the Queen of Thorns advice was probably right on the money. Up until this episode, I felt that she was pretty sensible, but the way that she kind of is trying to turn Dany against Tyrion, I guess I kind of get it, but it doesn't seem like a logical move to me anyway from the outside.
She's grieving. She's over it. Her life is over. She doesn't give a fuck anymore. She just wants to burn them. So anybody who stops her from having them burn, you know, and I have a feeling that we're going to see some burning. But Tyrion's right though. Tyrion is absolutely right. You're not going to win over Westeros by charring everybody. You're coming over there. You know, they showed it in the episode. You're coming over there with Dothrakis and Unsullied. And the Westeros lords are just going to, you know, whether they're old fashioned or not, you're not going to change. It's not going to be a paradigm shift right away. They're going to look down on that and, you know, screw that. They're going to be, you know, nationalistic, and they're going to, they're going to be, you know, protecting their children and stuff. Cause it's true. You know, what Cersei said was true. You know, not everybody, but Cersei's got a pretty bad rep throughout the kingdom. I mean, she just did her walk of shame, and now she's a queen by blowing up the Sept. So it's, I mean, I don't see how she still has a chance. You know, Qyburn is good, you know, but I don't know how good he is.
But his big plan was like giant crossbows. Like Qyburn usually
very
is
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I thought he's gonna go crazy ass shit. And it's just like, here's a giant crossbow, kill that dragon.
Yeah, shoot an arrow at it. You know, it's like trying to poison him or something. Maybe sneak into the ranks, do something like that. You know,
Qybur's gotten lazy, or he's smoking the opium. I don't know, man. He's this wasn't his most brilliant of plans. Zombie Mountain, that was a badass plan, right? Giant.
That's. Well, how about Zombie Mountain trying to fight the dragon? You know, there is such things as dragon slayers. You know, and can he? You know, what kind of an undead is he? So.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm on vacation, so I have my my youngest walking in and out of the room. Sorry, folks. That's why it's echoey. But dude, it was still a really good episode. Like you said, it had a really an intriguing beginning. Kind of that middle part, the whole sex scene, I didn't need, and I actually did jump across it because like I figured that they would do other stuff. Then
I feel
full
like
penetration.
They want podcasters to go on these recaps and be like, "How does Grey Worm do that?" Like what? This is an interesting sex scene, but and it's just like I don't want to talk about that shit. This is dumb. Like,
it's a really progressive sex scene showing that you don't need a penis to actually have sex and have somebody love you. Well, duh. Okay, duh. Sorry.
Anyway, so yeah, I was. I'm not taking. I guess we just did take.
Did I go too far there? I apologize.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just.
I think they just wanted. They needed to get their boob count in, and they just kind of wedged it in. That was it. So
wedging it in.
Wedging in the boobs. Yeah. So okay, we have Melisandre showing up on Dragonstone pretty early. That was it's weird that we're finally getting everybody meeting, everybody mentioning others' names, and it's kind of shocking. They're like all of a sudden doing it. We're like they didn't do it before at all. Like I had no idea if Jon Snow knew Daenerys Targaryen even existed. Now he's like, now we need to be friends, I kind of think they needed a moment of 3 fucking dragons. What? No, shut up. And then somebody trying to convince them and showing some proof. I do miss that and they even kind of gloss over that in the book. It's still rumor in the book in a lot of cases, but I think you're missing a good dramatic scene of people realizing that dragons are back in the world. That would be a good montage. I mean, that would be something, I wanted it to be a bigger, and maybe they'll show it when the dragons actually show up and you see people like crapping their pants, and I guarantee you they're going to show somebody crapping their pants. And that's kind of what I need. But Melisandre comes in, and I guess they made the point where Daenerys said, "Oh, it's a good day for pardons because otherwise I'd chop your head off too." and she just takes her word, which is, I guess so, because the Red Priest did help her, free Marine. So I get that scene. It just, yeah, it's just weird to me that everybody's mentioning everybody's names all of a sudden.
No, I totally agree. I was like, we've got Melisandre, Dany, and Tyrion being like, oh, Jon Snow. Oh, I like this Jon Snow guy. And then back at Winterfell, you've got them like, oh, yeah, Daenerys, her dad was not good. Like, don't fall into that trap. And it's just like, yeah, it's just really overt now. But, I don't know if I like it or not, right? Like, it's cool. It's cool to have, like, Tyrion trying to sell Dany on the fact that Jon's like a good dude and like he'd be a good ally, when normally I don't think Dany would be taking that kind of advice. And I also thought it was strange that Melisandre like brought Jon back to life, and she knows like what that's all about when no one else really knows all about, but she did not bring any of that shit up. Like can we talk about the princess who was promised? Like, what's this all of a sudden, the changing of this prophecy?
I want to say that in Valyrian, this is something that they've kind of changed after the fact, and they have brought it up online before. Okay, so
but not in the books, right? Is there anything in the books that says like, oh, it may not be the prince who's promised, it may be the princess who's promised?
Yes. Yes, I think the word there is no. It's not gender specific in Valyrian. They've told the prophecy in English, so I think he retconned that. George R. R. Martin. I don't think that's a Dan and Dave thing. George R. R. Martin retconned that to make it. Now I don't know if he did it from the beginning. I got to be honest with that. I got to go back and look. But I've heard about this for a long time. So this. It might be shocking to some viewers, but that's actually been in the it's been on the internet. It's been around. It's been in the lexicon.
This is a red herring, though, right? Like, it's Jon. Jon's the prince who is promised. Dany isn't part of that prophecy.
It might be both. It could be. This might be like the Last Jedi thing. Like Jedi doesn't mean or it could mean plural. It could mean one. It could mean two. It's the same thing. But Melisandre said it herself. Prophecies are kind of sticky, and all of the prophecies are kind of wrong in a way, and it's how you interpret them, and they're only kind of right. It's gonna be one of the two in the end. But no, I don't think. I think there's a great possibility it's neither. Think about that one. I think it's neither of them. There's supposed to be this big bittersweet ending, but people could go into that more. But that is definitely something that's been out there before the show, and the show picked up on it. They went a little wild with it, but that's cool. Whatever. A lot of girl power this episode, yes. And we love our girl power. One of the scenes where we get that they did really well was with Sam and Jorah. When Sam finds out who Jorah is. That whole thing was really well done. I thought, I'm like, yes, finally. And right up until he started peeling Jorah's skin off, and poor Sam, he gets all the gross scenes now. He gets the shit buckets, and now peeling
he's like
skin.
A doctor. Yeah, he's like a residency.
No, it's spicing. Actually, I'm liking the Sam scenes quite a bit. So.
It's not Sam though. It's the Citadel that's interesting to me. Like Sam is cool. Like I don't know. I've never been a big Sam on the show fan. I've liked some of his chapters in the books more than I've liked him on the show. And not to say the actor is bad. I just anyway. But to me, the Citadel is what's so cool about what they're doing with Sam. Like just seeing the goings on at the Citadel and what they're dealing with, and like these like elitist like knowledge seekers, and they all think they're like, Sam, you don't know anything. Like I've studied all this. You don't know what I love that like condescension in the Citadel. There's a lot of that I'm digging in the show, and it's so different. Like the setting, it just looks so different from anything else. It's a cleaner environment. It's very cool to see the Citadel.
It is. Mage Marwyn the Mage is this maester. He's really different from the books, because in the books he's like, "Yep, you're right, Sam. That's it. I'm gonna go meet Daenerys."
Right?
but no, I love the Citadel scenes. I think it's cool that they're there. Again, this is a bit of fan service. I think the story could actually be told with just finding some books, because that's essentially what they're doing. And Sam's not going to finish his training. Obviously, he's going to go back. All we're doing right now is we are putting, like you said in the beginning of this, we're putting the pieces together for this game, and the game is actually finally going to start. But we, let me just cut to the best thing in this episode. They were really building up the sea battle, and it delivered. That was fucking awesome. When Euron came down on that big jaw and landed on Yara's ship, and that whole fucking battle was amazing. And we had some stuff go. We had the sand snakes, and the sand snakes being gone. I'm not going to bury the lead. Is the best thing about this show. I'm sorry, dude. I was just
pretty much.
And again, that was major fan service, but bless him for that one. And Euron is a badass dude, and he was my favorite thing in this episode. He's going to be on the cover of this episode. I try to pick the most, I don't know, most notable character of each one, not to get meta with our own podcast, but that's what I do. And that whole, just that, the pirate thing in his armor, it's like, why didn't they do that with him this year? What was the change? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, he is so badass this year that, like, I don't want him to go. And I guess they should have waited longer to put him in, but I'm loving it. So. You're on, yeah.
Oh, I think
I shouldn't have. I mean, I'm sorry. I meant to say
that huge like
had
dragon.
To wait as long. Yeah,
I love when he came down on the ship and it looked like a dragon biting into the side of the ship, and then he's like riding it, and he walks over and then just starts raiding everybody. Like, yeah, man, the stuff they're doing in the Euron, it's so cool too, because we've had some really great, battles at sea on this show, especially the storming of King's.
Blackwater, Battle of the Blackwater.
The Battle of the Buechler. And I just felt like this was another one of those great, like, all of the masts were burning, so you had all of that like flaming, like all those flaming like circles floating through the air during the battle. Like, it all made sense. It all looked really cool. It's kind of like where Pirates started, the Pirates movies, and then where it got was so different. Like, this is what they should be doing. Like, if I had a whole like series about like all of the Westeros like pirate battles that have happened over the years, like, that would be a cool TV series. And I don't know, that whole ending sequence with that was badass. And Euron, I think, is what makes it.
Well, Game of Thrones is fan fiction. Right? That's exactly what it is.
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah.
Logan. Sorry. My son, I'm hearing something and it's him. Apologies. So the storm coming behind the ship, and the flaming, I guess that's the same thing they were shooting out from Marine. I didn't see one fire, but I'm assuming it's just like those tar balls that they were throwing.
Yeah.
That was so fucking badass, dude. And the effects on that were just top notch. That whole thing was just, it looked cinematic. It looked like a movie. That was bloody awesome. Another thing I wanted to bring up, John, is like one of the biggest scenes that they brought it up at the end, in the post amble, whatever they did, was the women all talking over the war room and plotting out the war with Tyrion, and and being skeptical of him until he like walks over. He's like, so they're basically like, so you want, and what were they thinking? They joined up with Daenerys. Yes, you're going to have to use your armies, okay? Yes.
Right.
And like, you want us to use our armies? And then Tyrion convinces them by going, don't worry, you'll be down here, and we're going to have the Dothraki and stuff.
They wanted to hear that
Casterly Rock. They hit Casterly, and that means we're going to see Casterly Rock. So I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, the new Battle of Casterly Rock. Especially when I wrote in my notes, I can't wait to see the Dothraki just like riding across Westeros, just burning down. Like, I cannot wait to see some of the influences that Dany's brought to them. Realized in battle on this show. So look, I think that the only reason that anyone, they thought that they were all going to be fighting together to take King's Landing, and it didn't end up being like that. It ended up being that King's Landing, they were going to make King's Landing untenable, but then have Casterly Rock be sacked so that the Lannisters' power sources in both places were just destroyed. And I think, hey, that's a good plan. And to have Tyrion to be the one pitching that plan, I think is what kind of brought people on board.
Yeah, that, and of course, Elena was like all skeptical about it and stuff, but some of that felt drummed up. Like, we still need drama for Game of Thrones, but I mean, it's good, it's necessary. We got to have fighting. We have these allies who don't really like each other, so I'm glad they addressed that early, because Tyrion liked his niece, and just them floating over that. I don't think Tyrion's going to be sorry that they're dead, and maybe he was the one who dropped the dime. I don't know. You never know.
It's true. I mean, it would seem weird that he would kill his dad and be on the bad side of his family, and then try, like, this is his way of getting back into their goodwill. Like, it seems a little bit sketchy, but yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Another thing that I think is really cool about this episode was getting to see Arya kind of doing her thing back in Westeros. We've got Hot Pie back on the show, which I think was something people were waiting for. We have Hot Pie teaching her about pies when she had just made Frey pies, which, holy shit, that's a crazy thing to have happening on this thing. And I like that Arya finally finds out that, like, Jon Snow is the King of the North.
Okay, so let's get Arya right now, and Arya finding out Jon is the King of the North. And yeah, you know what, I'm glad you brought that scene up, John, because something bothered me about that scene.
Yeah,
I thought she was not nice. I'm not going to use the word. She was not very nice to Hot Pie. And you know what it reminded me of? What was her name from Twilight? God, what was the girl's name? Bella. It was a Bella moment. Because that whole thing about Twilight is I never understood why anybody liked Bella. Yes, I watched them all. She was horrible to everybody. Yes. She was mean, surly, nasty, rude, ungrateful. Yes. And everybody was just, like, falling all over themselves to like her. And you know what? That's happening a lot in comics too, by the way. That is just it's horrible writing. And that was bad. It was not, I know she's cold and distant now, but I thought we went away from that with that scene with the soldiers. So her seeing Hot Pie was just, hi, Hot Pie, eating bread.
I'm hungry. Thanks for the pie.
I'm hungry. I drank. Thanks for the pie. Oh,
and Hot Pie, he was like, oh, it's free. Friends don't pay here. And like, and
like, thanks. That was like millennial Arya, and it was not cool. I didn't like the scene at all. Her finding out Jon was cool, that part, but that was my least favorite scene, and it made me not like Arya very much.
Well,
now I don't know if they're doing that on purpose to make her cold and calculated. And we'll jump to her Nymeria scene, which was, we don't have the budget to put Nymeria in anymore, so we're gonna like write this. Oh, this is what Arya would do. And thanks for spoiling the end, by the way, of what Arya is going to do, because that's what they just did. They just told you that Arya is going to take off. Arya is going to like go and reunite with everybody, and then in the end, she's either going to die or take off. Well, there's okay, in the books, Jon Snow gives Needle to Arya, and I'm paraphrasing here. He's just, I'm afraid after when winter ends and spring comes, they're going to find you curled around, this sword dead. That, everybody's kind of predicting that Arya is probably going to die and die alone. Arya's had this just horrible life, but she's a survivor. But you can be a grateful survivor. I don't know. I think, you just saw Hot Pie. I mean, like, give him a hug. I don't know. That was just I don't know.
So
it rubbed me wrong about that.
I don't know. I kind of interpreted it a little bit differently, where she was kind of like the first place she kind of went after she did. So there's two things I want to bring up here. One, I want to say that with that scene, it to me seemed like she showed up and she hasn't been around like friendly people in a long time, and she was kind of taken aback by the fact that Hot Pie still looked at her like the girl she used to be, not the girl she is. And I think when she put her hand on his shoulder on her way out, she was kind of like coming to realize like, oh shit, like I've changed a lot, you know? And I think that that's kind of the purpose of that scene. I do kind of I see where you're coming from, and I think that it can definitely be interpreted that way. I had a very different feel of it. But that said, what I don't like is that Arya, what we wanted from Arya coming back to Westeros is we wanted to see her get the phrase. We wanted Hot Pie, we wanted Nymeria, and maybe we want to see her like kill Cersei, right? And all of that has happened within 2 episodes. Like I feel like they're blowing a lot of interesting things, finding out Jon is the king in the north and heading there. Like, I just feel like they're blowing a lot of stuff that we wanted to see from Arya, and maybe they're going to do some really cool stuff. But I feel like this story that they've told with Arya over 2 episodes could have been told over like half a season, and it would have been really, really interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, have Arya come back at the end of the season, you know, I mean, like make that the big season ending thing, you know, why? Because you have time now. Okay. You have time. Listen, the war for the Dawn, the big war you're going to have with the Night King and everything. You could do that over 2 episodes, 2 really long episodes at the end of season 8, which give you tons of, especially since you're doing longer episodes. Now they're edited much better. They're moving much better. You know, there's entertaining scenes, but, this is still, you know, this is prologue part 2. Okay. And I don't hate this episode. We are critical. I just want to come out and say we're critical of things we like. Okay. But we're not like, unconditionally loving. We love everything you do, no matter what. And it's like, because it's not true. And I don't know how honestly, I haven't checked to see how people thought of the first episode. I don't know how. I could be completely wrong. I could read things completely wrong. I never said at any point in time, I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it just, I don't know. Like the whole Cersei getting her allies and getting the Tarly family. Well, that is hardly enough. Okay. So there must be something else going on. I'm thinking they I mean, just getting the Tarly family is, and especially getting Tarly to turn on his liege lord, would, I mean, that's an impossible scenario in the books. Randall Tarly turning on, would never happen. Not in a million years. Okay. Not unless they fucked him over directly, which George R. R. Martin would probably do in the books. We haven't gotten to that point yet. But he is a duty-driven guy, and he is a badass. He's a 100% badass. Hopefully they show that a little bit. You know, but we still get little moments, you know, like when Jaime, because Jaime was full on old Jaime in this episode, like season 1 Jaime. He's like, is this your son, Rickon? No, Dickon. Oh, yeah, whatever. You know, and then, you know, basically scaring him into, you know, scaring Randall Tarly like Randall Tarly could scare.
Right.
Into being, you know, with Daenerys. Again, a scene that could have, I don't know, I would have taken a little more time with. That's all.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree. I think that this episode was really cool because it gave us a lot of stuff. And maybe we sound like crazy people to say, I would have liked to have earned some of these moments a little bit more, I think is where I feel about it. So it's like the moments themselves, like I was like smiling at a lot of this, most of the stuff that was happening in this episode. But then at the end of the episode, I was just kind of, you know, when you think back on it, it's kind of like, oh, I wish they had earned, like, I wish the Nymeria staring down Arya scene had been like really earned, like something, you know, so that we knew what it really meant and that it meant something big. You know what I mean? Like just seeing Nymeria again is cool, but it would have been better had it been under some sort of a very like interesting, like it doesn't have to be during battle, but the Nymeria kind of looking at Arya and just walking away. I wish that had been about something, you know, and maybe, you know, it is, but it's not, you know, I feel like they could have done a better job there. So I think it's just more about earning some of the moments we see. I wanted to ask you a question. They talk about the, when Jorah is sick, they talk about him living with the other stone men, like a leper colony for like men with
Valeria. Yeah.
Do you think that is going to become like an army? Because they're all dying anyway. They could basically put them on the front lines of some war and it's almost like chemical warfare with warriors. Like I feel like that could be really cool to see, like the stone men taking on like the ice men in the north. I don't know. It just kind of came to me that like maybe that those men, like Jorah is going to go and rally them as an army for
that they don't have time for that in the show. That would definitely be a book thing. That is, but the problem is their minds are just gone. You'd have to use some sort of magic to like rally them.
True.
There is possibly a leader of the Stone Man. That might be a Lannister, but that's in the book, and that's just like that's how many. That's what I was. There's so many fucking layers in the book. So, yeah, read a bit. Look at the theories. Preston Jacobs got one, or go to the Song of Ice and Fire forum and look for the Shrouded Lord, ladies and gentlemen. And it's very entertaining. It's a great theory. There is a long lost Lannister who went looking for the Lannister Valyrian blade in Valyria and never came back. It was Tyrion's favorite uncle. And I'll just leave it at that. I won't bore you with it, but it's a really good. But the show will never do it. You know, it's very Lady Stoneheart kind of thing. So
before we end for the night, though, I did want to bring up one more thing: the Littlefinger scene, the Littlefinger and Jon scene. Like Littlefinger's got to be happy as hell that Jon is going south and leaving Sansa in charge of Winterfell. But when he finally tries to have a conversation with Jon, Jon basically says, "If you touch my sister, I'll kill you myself." Is that a threat that you think will bear out? Where do you think Littlefinger is right now? Because he's been pretty quiet the last couple episodes, just kind of hanging out at Winterfell. What do you think's going on with Littlefinger? What's going on?
Well, Jon, they did that because it mirrors the scene where Ned did that in season 1, and you know they're trying to make you think that Jon is like on his way to Ned's fate, and he very well could be. I don't think so. Lord of Light brought him back for a reason, and I don't think he's just going to get burned alive by Daenerys. She might do something else to him, but it won't have to do with fire, unless you're really kinky. But with Littlefinger, yeah, he thinks this is the greatest opportunity. But you know what I thought the first time when I saw that scene, and you know Jon Snow walked out, and he was looking pretty badass when he did that. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, as a sexy man. The first thing that I thought is Littlefinger's in a lot of danger. He is in a lot of fucking danger. Yeah, Sansa's gonna fuck him. It is gonna be. You know what? I'm gonna see it coming, and I'm still gonna love it. I just wish he would get a good dig in. I was kind of hoping they'd like save his death for maybe the beginning of next season, but it looks like they're leading up to offing him this season. Because honestly, you know, the evil strategist is not going to be necessary when the world is ending. You know what I mean? He's just, you know what? Unless he turns into kind of like, I don't know. Did anybody see the last Transformers movie? Not the one.
With the dinosaurs.
The one with the dinosaurs and oh god, I'm forgetting the actor's name. The tech guy who's bald. Unless he becomes like a running kind of comedy relief, which he won't. So I mean, other than that, I see no place for him other than dying, and that's too bad because we'll end it with this, and I promise not to harp on it on every podcast. I'll just kind of leave it be. I wish they would have done 10 episodes, 2 more seasons, and longer episodes. I guess the production values, they can't do it. I think Dan and Dave are kind of done. But you know what? You're doing your own George R. R. Martin. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Talk to M. Night Shyamalan or M. Night Shyamalan about how he's known in this world, and it's how he finishes his movie. The Sixth Sense is all about the last 5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so you got to finish strong, and watch out Game of Thrones, because I still love Battlestar Galactica, still in my top 5 all-time shows, but it did not finish strong. I'm going to be honest with you. Buffy finished strong.
No matter if
that's how you finish a show.
And Angel is like my favorite finale ever.
Angel finished better than Buffy. You're right.
I feel like if you're the director, showrunner, creator who's saying our show's about the journey, it's not about the destination, you're fucked on the back end, because it needs to also be about the destination. Yes, it needs to be about the journey. Everything is about we watch these shows and stick with them because they're good all the way through. But if you whiff on the ending, the way your show is remembered and the rewatchability of that show. I mean, I can rewatch Buffy and Angel because I love watching those finales and everything that leads up to them.
Yep.
I don't go back and watch Battlestar as much because it's the best stuff is earliest on. So it's like, yeah, I'll watch the early stuff, but then it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm not going to be like, hey, new friend, let's watch Battlestar together. I'd rather watch something else.
The Sopranos didn't end well, and it hurt its rewatchability. Breaking Bad ended well, did not hurt its rewatchability. MASH ended perfect, did not hurt its rewatchability. Although, okay, Seinfeld can break the rule on that one, but it wasn't an overarching plot. Seinfeld ended horribly, but it's actually part of the joke. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It still could end rad, and basically, if we get zombies fighting dragons, I'm cool. But Game of Thrones gave us this. You're the one who set us up and made this the template for new TV. What does everybody think? I want the Game of Thrones of space, and the Game of Thrones of cooking shows, and the Game of Thrones of house of reality TV. Yeah,
how to make free pies.
The Game of Thrones of Pawn Stars. That's what I want. Exactly. So it's the template now, and it's almost we don't want it to become a caricature of itself. It's still really good. I was still very entertained, and my God, Euron was fucking awesome. That was so great. That was so great. And poor Theon, dude. Poor Theon.
Because I don't know. Like,
I felt bad.
PTSD got him in that moment.
It did, and Yara had a little tear because she's like,
And these people are idiots, because had he actually tried to do something, she probably would have died. He probably would have died. Like, what he actually ended up doing probably saved them both.
Yara, for one, Asha in the books would have told him to jump.
Yes.
Jump, Theon, because she's badass. Yara didn't, but I think that's, the tear in her eye said, she understood. She's still a little disappointed in him. And Euron laughing at him was Euron. That was fucking Euron.
Well,
so
Euron laughs at everything.
Yeah, but damn, goddamn, they're making him so close to the book version. I just,
yeah.
See, if they would have taken more time, you could have, because Euron's got like magic on his side, and he's got some other crazy shit that's going to make him like as scary as the Night King. Okay, he's like Doctor Doom, but funny.
I love that. He's
Doctor Doom.
Yeah, they're making a Doctor Doom movie. Marvel is. That's amazing.
Actually, Doctor Doom looked nice.
Yeah. On that note, we'll be back live on Facebook next week. We just had I had some technical difficulties tonight. My audio output wasn't working, so our Be Live wasn't working for us. So this is going to go straight up on our YouTube channel. It's YouTube, the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. Please subscribe to us there and follow us. But most of the time, right after the episodes, we're going to be live on Facebook. We have a better control over producing the show over on Facebook, typically. So please like us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdrotic podcast, so you get all the notifications when we're going to have our live shows. But if you miss those, head on over to YouTube afterwards and watch them. And subscribe, all that stuff. You can find our stuff also on Nerdrotic. It's www.nerdrotic.com. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jon Reed 16. Gary's at Nerdrotics. That's our official Twitter feed. That's Nerdrotic with an S. You can find us on Instagram. We're Nerdrotic on Instagram. And please, still, it helps us out a lot. I know we're focused a lot on the video right now, but if you could give us a subscribe over in the iTunes podcast app, leave us a review or a star rating. That's something that we're also trying to grow. So while we focus on the video, it may not be as important, but it still helps us out a lot. Anything else before we go, Gary?
No, it's really like the episode. Really did. Have my problems with it, but can't wait for next week, man.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. I'm gonna watch it like 2 or 3 more times. So
totally.
Awesome. So yeah, may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Good night.